Hello, and welcome to Real Talk. My name is Melissa Jones-Chunu. Voicing the Margins is a series of curated live conversations on issues and topics of critical import to marginalized communities, including, but not limited to, people of color, LGBTQAI+, and economically disadvantaged citizens. Providing a voice and platform to often voiceless people is at the heart of this series. Real Talk, Voicing the Margins is a partnership with Pursuit Films, Oklahoma, Humanities, and Tri-City Collective. At this time, Pursuit Films and Tri-City Collective respectfully acknowledge the land on which we gather as the traditional territory of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Their honor, resilience, and sacrifices continue to inspire our spirit and inform our work. I want to thank our panelists, Angela Jones, Dr. Angela Jones, Ramona Rogers, and Donnell Hawkins for joining us today in this important conversation, and also our appreciation to the folks that make the Real Talk possible, Tri-City Collective, Pursuit Films, and Oklahoma Humanities. Thank you to all that joined us today, live and in person. Join us again next month because Real Life comes on every third Saturday. See you next month. And now we will have introductions from our esteemed panelists. Dr. Angela Jones.
Hello there. My name is Dr. Angela Jones. I'm the lead counselor at Booker T. Washington High School. I counsel students 10th through 12th grade. I have a strong interest and passion for STEM, and I have a passion for students, teaching students and counseling students. And that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. And now we have Miss Ramona Rogers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ramona Rogers. I am the STEM coordinator and educator at Booker T. Washington High School. There I am in TSA Advisor, which is a Technology Student Association, as well as I am the drone coach for our drone racing team. I also help with robotics. Outside of that place, I am an entrepreneur. I do student success coaching, self-empowerment, and I am so happy to be here. STEM has become my passion, and I'm all about empowering and inspiring students to reach their potential, especially in the STEM world.
Thank you so much. Mr. Donnell Hawkins.
Greetings. My name is Donnell Hawkins. I am a 6th to 12th grade math teacher at Crossover Prep, and I also have a math tutoring business, Donnie P's Math Tutoring, which also has a summer program of Math Times professionals of showing students why math is important through STEM fields.
All right, thank you. Let's get started. So what inspired each of you to pursue a career in STEM or education related to STEM fields? Starting with Mr. Hawkins.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So me being a math teacher, I always loved math. And so math was always inside of me in college. And when I'm a former student athlete, so I was trying to go to the league. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I always knew if I went into teaching, I was gonna be a math teacher. And well, I'm a math teacher today. And so with being a math teacher, as I grow in my expertise, I see that math is a gateway subject to where if you don't have the strong math skills, then the likelihood of you going into STEM is low. And so my purpose is to help students improving those math skills so then they're able to have those skill sets to partake in these STEAM and various STEAM professions. So that's what excited me about STEM.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Ms. Rogers?
STEM is a pivot for me in life. Never thought in a million years that I would be in this space, but a few years ago, the principal at Booker T. Washington was in need of a STEM teacher, of which she called upon me, even though that wasn't my background. And so because I do self-mastery education, it was like stepping outside your box. So I had to start speaking. I started doing what I actually encourage and coach other people to do. And so I knew it was going to be hard for me, but I really didn't understand all that STEM had to offer. And once I got there, it was like I'm like a event type planner. I started planning things to give students those skills, like let them see themselves differently. But I really didn't know all the things that went on with STEM, how all the areas that they have. And so I feel like I'm a representation for students that look like me, who once did not realize that that was an avenue for them. And so bringing in various courses and activities just in this 2.5 years is like, it's a lot for me to learn. However, it's giving them avenues to learn something new so they can think differently about who they are and what they can do as far as a career, as opposed to just most of the things that say nursing or something like that, but that they really don't want to. Other things do fit them. They just don't know it yet. And so being a representative in that aspect, I just fell in love with it.
That's amazing. And just to remind us all, what does STEM stand for?
Science, technology, engineering, and math. And if you put the A in there with STEAM, a lot of times people use the art.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Angela Jones, same question.
Yes, I have just always had a natural curiosity about the natural world around me. I grew up just loving animals and wondering how things work. So it was my natural curiosity that prompted me to pursue a Bachelor of Science in Zoology. I thought that I might maybe want to be a vet one day. And my mother also encouraged me to go into a medical field. So I had that parental push. And I had that parental involvement that pushed me to say, you know, you can do this despite what you may think or despite what you see around you. I did not end up going into the medical field, but I'll tell you the reason why I did end up doing my STEM-focused dissertation was because of some experiences that I had with students as a counselor. And what I was noticing was that many of the girls, or most all of the girls that would come in, would say, hey, I'm not good at math. I'm never good at math. And they were doing poorly in their grades for biology and math. And when I asked them why, they were like, because I'm a girl, I'm not good at math. And it disheartened me because I was like, what do you mean? I'm good at math. I'm actually better at science than I am at math. But it disheartened me to see Hispanic, brown, and girls that look like me, Black girls, say that they can't do it. And I noticed that one teacher at the school was having a certain impact on students' ability to perform in math, girls and underrepresented groups. And so that's what kind of stemmed my curiosity about what we could do as educators to promote girls and underrepresented groups, specifically Black females, to take more advanced math courses and have the confidence to do math and science.
Wow, that's powerful. Thank you so much. All right, we'll go to our next question. What are some of the common misconceptions about Black women in STEM, and how do we address them? We'll start off with panelist Ramona Rogers.
What I'm learning is that we have this preconceived notion that that's not our place. And so when you are used to hearing that, or you don't see that, you don't tend to think that that's what you can do. You don't tend to go to the classes, or for that matter, even try in the classes that you're in to excel so you can go to the next class. You tend to, from my experience, you tend to do the bare minimum just to get by because you just really don't think that that's a space for you. And seeing that, I find myself, day to day encouraging or asking questions. And it really boils down to, because I do the self-mastery stuff, it's about what you think and what you've seen and what you've been exposed to, that you already think a certain thing about yourself. You don't even think that you can do it. So if you don't think you can, you're not going to. And so that stops them right there with this thinking that they can or they're able to.
Wow. That's really a sad statement. It's sad that we have to talk about that, but we do have to talk about it. And Dr. Jones, same question.
Yeah, a common misconception about Black females is that they are underachievers and that they don't have the ability or the intellect to achieve in math and science, or even to go into STEM careers. And what we know about, from what research is saying, is that Black girls actually have the same or even a greater interest in STEM classes and STEM subject areas, but those interests are not fostered and they're not developed by educators, by family, by community members to say, yes, you can go into STEM, you can pursue those interests, and you belong there. These reinforced societal stereotypes about what Black girls can and cannot do are sort of internalized in their minds, and they're reinforced in the educators themselves. So we're not conditioned to disrupt those stereotypes and say, no, actually, you can achieve. You just need to go down this pathway. And we don't know how to talk to them about how to engage in STEM. So the misconception is that they cannot do it, but the reality is that they can with the proper guidance and direction.
That's correct. Proper mentorship, right? If they have somebody
Correct.
to show them
Yes.
what to do, then they'll most likely be able to achieve their goal. That's great. Mr. Hawkins?
To add on to the misconception, when you get into the workplace, from what I've seen, I was a nurse tech before I came into this role. I seen doctors get undermined, Black women doctors get undermined and be mistaken for techs as well, or nurses, like actual doctors who are their assigned doctors for the day, and they ask them other roles to take care of, and it's like, no, I'm here to educate you on your medical plan. And so with that being said, along with not doing the profession, what other people think is like, oh, I see majority of this individual in cleaning up or doing other minor roles other than actually being top level professionals. And so that's another misconception of thinking that we can't do the math, we can't do the sciences, or just do the high level job, or not I'm not a woman, but as a woman of a Black woman, of doing these high level jobs, because you think, just because you don't see them, they're not doing it. And so a misconception is mistaking them for other minor roles versus the high performing roles.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Our children can do so much if we just have somebody showing them what they can do. That's right. That's great. All right. Next question. Why do you think representation matters in STEM fields? And how does it impact young Black girls' aspirations? We'll start off with Dr. Jones.
Well, people cannot be what they cannot see. And if they don't see representatives of Black females in science, technology, engineering, and math, then they're not likely to think that they too can have a career in STEM. And that's why it is really critically important to introduce representation in STEM to young students in the primary school. By 4th and 5th grade, Black girls have already decided if they're good at math or not. And by middle school, they're shying away from taking upper level science and math courses. So there is a great work that we have to do in the primary school to reinforce or try and disrupt those societal stereotypes, which reinforce the idea that girls are supposed to have certain jobs or perform in certain roles. Society often says that girls should be in the caring field, in the nurturing fields, and that they cannot do, or they don't have the mindset to do physics and math. And it's just not true. So it's important for them to both see the representation of other Black females in the STEM field, and that can go a long way for helping their self-confidence and boosting their STEM self-efficacy.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Jones. So what I hear is systems of oppression are being disrupted. That's what I hear. All right.
That's what we need to do.
That's what we need to do. Okay. Soon to be Dr. Hawkins.
Thank you. In Math Time Professionals is a summer program that I lead in the summertime for the past 4 years. The goal is to bring in STEM professionals so they can work with the students with math-based concepts. And so this helps with, going back into what you just said previously, this helps with being reinforced that, yes, I see myself into this profession. We are into this profession. How do I get there? And so the professionals also tell the students on how to, like, hey, math is not, it's not that scary. We promise, to try to reinforce, like, hey, you can do this math. And so again, just with Black girls keep seeing the reinforcement, just like society standards, as far as seeing, no offense to other artists or athletes, other than just seeing athletes on a day-to-day basis, social people on a day-to-day basis. Let's see these Black women professionals on a day-to-day basis. So that's the goal that I try to show as a teacher to my students. Like, hey, we're not just entertainment. We are STEM. We have inventors in our past that invented different things to this day that we use, that came from the same neighborhood that you came from. So representation matters.
Representation matters. Everybody look at your neighbor and say representation matters. That's right. Very good. It does. Okay. And we'll move on to our next question. Can you share any personal experiences where you faced challenges as a Black professional in STEM and how you overcame them?
So again, before I was a math teacher, and I did hints that I was in the medical profession, I did go to nursing school. And so in nursing school, I faced challenged with literacy. And so I was able to do the hands-on projects, but I wasn't able to perform the test properly because I wasn't reading the information well. And with that, with STEM, it's not just solving math problems. You have a word problem, and you have to understand how to interpret the word problem to see, hey, what are we looking for? And so with that being said, this was a challenge for me. And with STEM can also be challenging if you're not throwing in, you may have a student that knows the, 2 + 2 is 3 or whatever the quadratic equation, but how can you interpret this quadratic equation in a word problem? So that's that's a challenge that I had to go through. I ended up failing that at that time, but now I didn't let that hold me back. And also with other students, I use that same story to be like, hey, this did help me back at one point, but hey, this is where I overcame. This is where you can overcome as well.
Oh, wow. That's great. You just touched on so many topics. And even, I know we're talking about STEM, but the importance of literacy, because you said you had to read the question in order to get the answer. If you can't read the question, you're not going to be able to get the answer. But I digress. That's another issue. Okay. We're going to go to our individual questions. Or actually, no. Sorry, Dr. Rogers. What step are... left off. Got it. Can you share any personal experiences where you faced challenges as a Black professional in STEM and how you overcame them?
Since I'm new to the field, I had to dive deep and fast, and it almost felt like I was placed in the middle of the ocean between two continents without a life jacket. So I was surviving plenty of days, and looking at how to do that, I had to learn how to do that. I mean, my personal skills could get me there, but the subject matter to teach these students, I had three different classes of subjects, and I'm like, how do you do this? I had to figure that out and figure it out fast. But I was also noticing as I was going through, and the students didn't know. They didn't know one way or the other. I was presenting it as if I knew, but inside I knew I didn't. And I had to stop and learn and call on some resources, find some resources to help me help myself so I can help my students. And so through the process, me learning and able to teach them, I had to back it up for myself. I would learn everything the day before or 2 days before, and then pour it out to them. And I just said, rock and roll with me, here we go, But most of it was coding. And for most females, females period, coding, you say coding, they almost, melt down. And it's, no, this is how we do that. Laying it out towards a step by step. Look at what you can create and start speaking to their gifts that you see, that they do this one thing over on this side. And my students did this HTML things that in 6 weeks, they made these beautiful things just out of coding. And I have all of those that I even show, my show and tell. in 6 weeks, they learned that stuff. And so to speak to this is how you do that and encourage them to see where they're at and say, you can do this. This is how, I'll take time with you. You have to do that part as well. And even though I didn't know, but they didn't know I didn't know, but showing them that they could be more and they could do more, they gravitated to that. And so that's what I continue to do is just keep showing them. A lot of them are hands-on. If you stop and show them hands-on, this is how you do that. Stay after school. I got you. We can do what we want after school. We're driving drones in the hallways and everything because we say Booker T after 5. And that's what we do. And so allowing them to be a part of something that they never thought they could and seeing them and say, I see you. I always say, I see you. And they don't hear that often. So another part of that is the representation that we got to teach the parents what to put in front of their daughters. You can't teach what you don't know. All day, every day. You're teaching and showing them certain things. What about this over here that's going to benefit their future? So we got to reteach or be willing to learn how we need to put our daughters in front of different spaces or in environments that's going to allow them to see the doctors, the lawyers, the STEM people, all of that. If we're not willing to do that, then that's a contingency right there in and of itself. And so even conferences I'm having, what are you doing with your child? This is, and so you have parents like saying, I didn't know. This was just last week. I didn't know. So I'm teaching as I'm encouraging, but making you, allowing you to have access to me as well. Because I don't think in this day and time I'm off limits to anybody. My job and my purpose is to make sure. And so I take that seriously. And so the parents, I can't get rid of some of those kids that are not in my class. They're in there because they're in there for a reason. I see you, but I want to see what you're doing. Let's move in another direction. Let's move in the right direction. And we don't have enough of that to do the expectation part. I expect more from you. And if no one's speaking that to them, then they just kind of going through the motions.
Wow. Thank you. You just said a dissertation. That was a lot. That was a mouthful, but it's true. Like if you don't know, if parents don't know, they just don't know. And so that's a very powerful point. Dr. Jones, can you share any personal experiences where you faced challenges as a Black professional in STEM and how you overcame them?
Yes, I think for me, it was overcoming the isolation of being the only Black person in the STEM department or in the science department, or even when I was pursuing my Bachelor of Science in Zoology at OSU, in the College of Arts and Sciences. For my degree major, zoology, I was only one of 2 Black people receiving a zoology degree.
Wow.
And so it was another Black female, and we relied on each other a lot to help us get through a lot of those higher level science classes. But being the only Black person in a room full of people can be pretty daunting because you don't have like that support to say, girl, you can do this. Yeah, it's impossible. But so just encouraging myself to push through and know that I did belong there, even though it might look like I didn't because there weren't other people that looked like me in these spaces. Same thing with when I was teaching science. I taught high school biology, zoology, botany, biology 2, AP biology in 2 different high schools, and I was always the only Black person in the department. So I didn't have people who look like me to bounce ideas off of or to see how we can help encourage the underrepresented groups in our classes to push forward and have the confidence to believe that they could be successful in science classes. So overcoming just the isolation of being the only person that looks like you in these spaces is probably the biggest challenge that I think I faced throughout my whole span of engagement in the STEM world.
To add on not to add on, but did you have any mentors that you looked up to in the STEM field, any Black women that you looked up to?
That's a great question, and I really did not. but I pressed forward. I can think of some now after the fact. And that's really why I got into counseling, is because I wanted to be what I did not have for students. And I knew that if I had had people encouraging me, because if I think about it now, I probably would have been good at a career in engineering. Now that I know what engineering is, I think I would have been a great engineer. But I had no knowledge of what it was. I had nobody telling me what it was. I didn't have a school counselor that said, you know what, you might be able to succeed in engineering. I'm looking at your science scores. I'm looking at your math testing scores, and it's suggesting that this might be a field that you might want to go into. But I never had that experience. Didn't learn about that until I got in college. And so, again, you cannot be what you don't see. If no one is telling you that you can be successful in these fields, and you're not going to first know about it, and you're not going to have the confidence to go into it. So mentorship, yeah, no, but I strive now to be the mentor for the next generation of girls so that they can go and pursue their personal best in whatever interests they have.
Mission accomplished. Great job. Okay. Mr. Hawkins, from your experience as a math educator and tutor, what are the biggest academic challenges Black students face in STEM subjects? You know this about to be good. He done sat up in his chair. Let's go.
So the biggest challenge, hitting close to home, we're 49th in the nation in education in Oklahoma. And so we have a lot of students who are low in their math scores, and they get passed on. It's just what it is. They just get passed on to where their math level is second grade, but they're in 8th grade. So you expect me? So you would not. Let me get a little bit more professional. I'm sorry. No, so you're expected to teach a pre-algebra class to a person who may not know their timetables. So these are one of the challenges. These are one of the challenges that I face in the classroom. The solution to the problem is to talk to the parents, also talk to your math team, and try to figure out, hey, while we have to teach the curriculum, how can we help support the student with supplement help? Like, what are some other like games? What are some other different engagement activities that we can help build this student's foundational skills? Hopefully, mind reading me that last question again.
Absolutely.
So I'm on task.
So from your experiences as a math educator and tutor, what are the biggest academic challenges Black students face in STEM subjects?
And also, they don't see themselves in STEM subjects. So it's like there's no need for me to learn. If you don't see myself, if I don't see myself in engineering, if I don't see myself as an auditor, if I don't see myself as an aerospace engineer, why do I need to know what the quadratic formula is? Why do I need to know why y equals mx plus b? I don't really need to know it. So there's missing that word, but there's not a lot of reinforcement of representation of why I need to be into this field and be like, all I need to know is this money. And it's like, well, you need to know how to balance a budget. You need to know taxes. You need to know all this. So hopefully I didn't lose anybody, but that's what I see as a problem with our Black students, especially with our Black girls being only like, again, to social norms, only pushed to social norms and not pushed into our STEM fields. Was that clear, everybody? Hopefully that wasn't clear. Okay.
I want to piggyback on what he said on that. So another way that we can help move them into this field is by changing our messaging. So many times when you think about a STEM professional, you think of a stiff scientist that looks a certain way, that's in a lab or doing something that's not fun and creative or helping professional. And what we know about STEM is that these are for students who are artistic, who are creative, who can problem solve, who can work collaboratively with others. And so we have to change our messaging and we have to change our narratives about what a STEM professional is so that we can reroute a student's ideas about what a STEM professional is. And then they'll have the confidence to know that that is them, right? So yes, if you're artistic, if you're creative, if you like to solve problems, if you like to help people, these are the messages that we need to start giving to students. And we're not just focusing on the super focused AP student who's got an A in AP physics or is taking the highest levels of math. We need to look at students from the whole spectrum and change our whole perception of who is a STEM student.
That's
Can
good.
I add on to that just a moment? So this year, and we live that every day. This year and last year, Mr. Hawkins helped us with our STEM day, but this year is STEAM. We went that route because we don't understand that creativity is the beginning aspect of everything else. And so Booker T. Washington is having a STEAM day on March 27th, and it's open to the public. So we touched on how we need to start. We need to start with these babies. We need to expose them to that. These things are necessary. So all of my students are doing ingenuity type things. Arts and ingenuity is what our focus is. How do you take nothing, and make it into something? Well, we got structure. Well, that's what the Eiffel Tower, that's structure engineering. If you can put these two sticks together, then that's how they built that over there. They don't make the connection because we're not putting them in spaces or having things to allow them to make the connection. And so I invite everybody to bring your daughters, your sons, your grandma. All this art and ingenuity is what this is all about, because we do miss that creative aspect of STEM. It starts there.
That's great. Tell us those dates again.
It's one day, March 27th, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Not in the morning, 8 p.m. But it's open to the public. There is an art exhibit from those students, but all our students are doing something to give that experience, to give those aha moments. And my biggest thing is give these people an experience, give these kids an experience. And the thing about it is, throughout this process of them creating, I had a fire hazard, they said, in my room because I had nothing but cardboard. We create everything out of raw materials, so we buy nothing. But those students even had aha moments for themselves that, oh, this is what this is. I didn't really know because they're used to the computer. So even taking it for them and what they need to give and what they need to present and how they need to allow somebody to experience that is what that day is all about. Again, March 27th. That's like next week, next Thursday. So come out.
Okay, and where is that going to be at?
Booker T. Washington High School in the Auxiliary Gym, 1514 East Zion.
Thank you so much. All right.
Yes, 5:30. I have some flyers I'll give out when we leave, guys.
All right. We're going to see the Hornets in the house. Yeah. Okay. So, Ms. Watkins, or Ms. Rogers, as a STEM coordinator and student success coach, what strategies have you found most effective in building confidence in Black girls pursuing STEM?
I began asking them their vision for their life.
Vision.
What do you want? Most of the time, the answer is, I don't know. That's the same answer a lot of adults give as well. But helping them to understand that it starts with the vision you have for your life, and it has to be authentic. So if I see them doing something, I said, that's what that is. This is this over here. So helping them see themselves differently than what anybody else is telling them or what their peers are even expecting them to be. They're afraid to show up as their authentic self. They'd rather go along with the crowd and what everybody else is doing, as opposed to standing in their own power of who they are. And I got this, and this is what I do. And helping them to see themselves differently is really the thing that allows them to start moving in that direction. It might take 6 or 7 months, and me constantly, hey, come here, having those conversations with them. But they start to get it. And when they do, they start showing up differently.
So relationships matter.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. And how the schedule runs, you don't have a whole bunch of time, but you have to carve it out and say, stand right here. I'll be right with you. I'll give you a pass to class. And some of those teachers probably sick of me giving passes. However, at that point, it's not about that. It's about that child that I'm supposed to, that's my assignment in life. That's how I look at it. If that kid is my assignment, they're in front of me. You have to wait till all other kids leave, but I need to have a conversation with you for 3 minutes. Do I need to walk you to class? Whatever needs to happen, and it's coming from an authentic place. And so the students know that. I say girls, but I get male, female, all colors, whatever. But particularly my girls, they get it after a while. And my biggest thing, I said, I'm next to greatness. I don't flow with anything but that. So I need you to step up to the plate. When you start speaking language to them of where they can be, they tend to start singing, When you see those moments and the look on their face, that might not be what they hear in their home. But when you walk in my presence, I need you to act accordingly.
High expectation.
So that's how I get them to do it. I'm mom teacher. It's what I do, but I love them, and they know that I have their best interest at heart, and I'm not going to lead them in any way that's not beneficial for them. And so that's kind of the pull that I do have with them, and I use it, but I use it to get them where I know that they'll be beneficial to them in their futures when they're not in front of me.
Thank you so much. Sure you're not getting that doctorate degree soon? Okay. Dr. Jones, your research focuses on how school counselors influence STEM participation. What are some key findings on how their advocacy impacts Black girls' choices in STEM?
Okay, I'm going to try and narrow this down, my research. So my study looked at 2 questions, and it was, how can a specific professional development focused on STEM for school counselors impact their STEM advocacy practices, which could in turn impact, and the second question, how that impacts course enrollment in advanced math and science for Black females. And so there were a number of factors, uncontrollable factors, that I believe impacted the outcome, such as sample size. I was expecting around 62 counselors and career advisors. I ended up with 35. 22 took a survey. So, uncontrollable factors that could have skewed my results. But I did end up with some statistically significant data despite all that. And what I found was school counselors who identified as American Indian or Alaska Native slightly increased their STEM advocacy practices as a result of the intervention. They took the STEM advocacy survey before the intervention and again after the school district's course enrollment period. And also school counselors who indicated that they worked at both the middle school and the high school levels showed a slight increase in their STEM advocacy scores. So meaning they're changing their practices, they're changing their behaviors, they're changing their conversations and how they engage students into selecting certain courses, advanced math and STEM courses. And then on the flip side, school counselors with 17 plus years of experience actually decreased their STEM advocacy scores.
Wow.
And that was something that I didn't want, but I mean, when we think about it,
Well,
it was just interesting to see that it decreased. But when we think about it, it's people who are set in their ways, maybe more senior, more seasoned, closer to retirement counselors might not be so likely to accept the fact that what you're doing could be improved upon. Or if something has always worked for you, maybe more seasoned counselors might not be so likely to accept the fact that what you're doing could be improved upon. Or if something has always worked for you, In the 17 plus years that you've been a counselor, why would you want to change your practices? And what could anyone tell you about what you're doing to make it better, right? Because I'm a career school counselor, despite what the evidence-based research is saying. So that was the results. Those were the results on the STEM advocacy practices. And for course enrollment, we looked at course enrollment numbers for Black females the year before the professional development intervention and the year after, and we did not see any significant differences. There was a slight increase in advanced math and science scores, 9% from the previous year to 10% in the post-intervention year, but that was not statistically significant. But since there was an increase, we can't say that it was totally inefficient or ineffective, right? So, but also, if the majority of school counselors' STEM advocacy scores did not change, then you could expect that course enrollment for the Black females that they serve would not change, right? Because if the intervention didn't impact them, how could they then impact the students that they serve, right? So those were in a nutshell, the overall scheme of my research. That's what I found.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Doc. Okay, Mr. Hawkins. So you're a tutor, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the name of your tutoring company?
Donnie P's Math Tutoring. Donnie P's Math Tutoring.
Okay. How can tutoring programs and personalized instruction help bridge the gap for Black students who are struggling in STEM?
So I took the initiative of starting summer programs. Me as a former athlete, student athlete, we practice all the time. We practice in the summertime. Football was every day. So why don't we take that same mindset with our math skills and practice, right? I'm not trying to like knock it in your heads or anything, right? But we need to develop some of these math skills so we can prepare ourselves if we want our children, our Black girls to go into STEM. We want to prepare our students in the summertime so then we can take care of the season game in the fall, in the spring. So with the tutoring aspect, for K through 5, middle school, even high school, when it comes to like, hey, what do I really want to do with my life? Like, where do I see myself going? Let's, for our parents, for our teachers, let's try to, let me back up. So for our middle school and elementary in the summertime, what are some of these foundational skills that we need to work on? Let's work on timetables. Timetables is very key in pre-algebra, algebra, by the way. But let's work on our adding and subtracting, our arithmetic counting. Let's work on these foundational skills so we're able to go ahead and do geometry, know area, perimeter, knowing how to graph different stuff. We need to work on these foundational skills in the summertime so we're able to outperform in the fall and in the spring, in my opinion.
Okay, that's amazing. Do you see a lot of, do you teach in an all-boys school, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So do you see a lot of your students pursuing STEM jobs after graduation?
So I don't know the number, but a very low percentage. A very low percentage after graduation. We're on our third graduation team, and this is our strongest graduation team. So that number I don't know the number to be honest with you, but I know that number has improved because a lot of our kids are actually taking, like one's going to OU, one's going to Howard, one I hope goes to TU, but they're actually taking more of an initiative. So the number has increased with the students that I see on a day-to-day basis. And as a school, we also push STEM and trades in STEM as well. So STEM is not just in college. Trades also have STEM characteristics as well. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah,
so
did.
Yes, we what was your question again? So I make sure I'm on task.
How can tutoring programs and personalized instruction help bridge the gap for Black students who are struggling in STEM?
That second question you asked. about the kids.
Oh, yes. The students, do you see them pursuing jobs in STEM?
Yeah, so for our students, it's a low number, but this third year, we have seen an increase of intrigueness of pursuing STEM.
That's a possible research study, Dr. Hawkins.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I add something to it?
Go ahead, add it.
Yeah, you mentioned something about trade, STEM careers. Many people think that STEM careers are only 4-year degrees or plus. But what we know is that there are hundreds and tons of 2-year or professional trade careers in STEM. And you don't have to always pursue a 4-year degree in STEM to be a STEM professional. And I remember being at a counseling meeting, and one of the counselors was saying, oh yeah, my kid came to my office and he said he wanted to be an engineer. And I said, have you looked at your biology class scores? Have you looked at your physics? You know, right? And I just had to tell her, I said, you missed an opportunity to direct that student to a STEM pathway that was appropriate for him. And I said, you know, there are lots of 2-year degrees at TCC that he could pursue a STEM opportunity. But in that moment, it's gone. He is going to forever think that he cannot be a STEM professional because of what you told him. And there is so much power in our words. And we have to be careful of what we say to our students and the conversations that we have with them, because our words are powerful and they are listening to us because we're the adults and we're the professionals in the field. So anyways, yes, trades. Trade careers in STEM is important to reinforce the message that, yes, STEM can be for everyone.
Can I piggyback that just a little bit? So working in partnership with Tulsa Technology, a lot of our students go to tech. Recently becoming a Google facilitator, offering 9 free Google certifications for students, letting them see that this is a STEM career. You can have a certification in this and decide whatever else you want to do, but you will have these skills. Trying to put in front of them that these are the things that you can do. There's a social media e-commerce one. They're doing social media every day. That's what this is. Allowing them to see and relate to what they're already doing, to what that certification offers them, was a bit of a stretch for most of the kids, because some of these titles of the classes were not registering as the tangible things that they do every single day. And so we did have a seminar where we were breaking that information down of what they're doing currently aligns with something that is there, that's STEM, that could help their livelihood later on down the line. So it wasn't even a representation. This was like across the border. All the students was like, what, and what that ties to. In the tech world, that's the easiest barrier to entry, is what people understand. You can, sit at home and learn those skills, and then you can, go to the next level, next 10 levels in 2-3 months just by what you know as far as the tech world. And so allowing the students to think differently about how they approach tech, that was our goal with Google. And so how many are going to actually, a lot signed up, how they moving through that, we'll see here in just shortly.
So you have a partnership with Google?
Yes, I have a partnership with Google. We're the only high school in Oklahoma who has that partnership, that we're able to offer free certifications for our students and the Booker T. Washington community, period.
That's amazing. Go ahead.
Mind if I add this?
Please.
With the summer initiatives, which you was asking me about tutoring. So also, I just thought about this. We do have resources too in the summertime. I know I do Math Times Professionals, but there's not always, there are other initiatives as far as the Teach program that helps with literacy with the Crutcher Foundation. There's also a literacy program. And the reason why I say literacy is because we can solve problems all day, but we have to know what we're solving it for. We have to understand what the problem is when it comes to STEM, because you will have in the engineering classes, in the health classes, in the finance classes, they're going to give you word problems. And so in order to improve in STEM, we need the literacy. We need the literacy concept to help us with that. Curator Foundation. We also have our brother. It's Michael who does Michael Vaughn who does with coding. So his foundation also helps with that. So what am I saying? There's all type of programs in our community that we can spread the word to throughout our schools to help our students improve in these STEM careers, to be influenced in these STEM careers, and to influence their math and literacy skills in order to partake in these STEM careers and be successful in them.
Wow. Thank you. Ms. Rogers, how can parents and community leaders get more involved in supporting Black girls' STEM journey?
Seek out the resources that are available in your community. Go talk to somebody that can lead you in the right direction. And you brought up Michael, Urban Coders Guild. He does have a summer camp where they do app development as well as web design, free. Always has openings because you can't fill the spots. So when you have different things going on, parents need to be mindful that in order to change your child's perspective or outlook, we need to expose them and get them in that space. We need to get them around somebody that they can touch, feel, hear, and see what that's about. Internships. Most people are so happy when you say, can my child come and shadow for a day? Or can we take a tour? They often say, no one's asking. No one's asking. I have people call, I have to just, I can't reach everybody, but they're saying, what can I do to help? I want to do, my company wants to do this, my company wants to do that. And when you have stuff, people don't show up. But, that's on the parents to get them there. We can have stuff all day long, but if the parents don't bring those students to show up and to experience those things, then we're still at ground zero. And that's what I'm finding is the issues that you can put the information out there. Everybody can be talking about it, but if no one shows up to experience what you have, then that continues to be the issue.
Wow, for lack of parent knowledge and lack of their involvement in their students'
Very
educational
very
experience.
Much so. And my background is early child education, so I was real strategic and intentional about exposing those kids to everything because I knew that was essential to the next level. But when they left me, there was this gap in what they were being exposed to. And so it's not always on the school. It's on some parenting. Sometimes I tell some of these parents, you drop them off at 14 and I'm supposed to make them grade in 4 years. Can we have a partnership in this, in doing this? I'll do my part. How about you do your part? And so when we don't know, we don't know. We got to still do some training. I call myself a tech dinosaur because none of this stuff was around when I was coming through. And so me relearning and willing to relearn and to know that that's going to be not only beneficial to me, but anybody I touch and who I have influence over is where I'm at. So we need to, 40s plus, if you didn't grow up with this, you need to understand that it's crucial to your kids and your grandkids. And you need to put them in those spaces or around those people who's going to allow them to say, hey, that's what I like and I remember that. And so that part is what we are definitely missing. That's a missing piece to the puzzle. And I'm looking at that thing over there that's making me say piece to the puzzle. That Rubik's Cube over there. We have some missing pieces that we need to address. And, sometimes educators get a bad rap, but it's a partnership. Parents are their first teacher and their teacher all day, every day. We are supposed to be in partnership. And when we don't understand that, we get all this blame game. No, let's do this together so we can make sure these students, especially the students of color, elevate like we know that they can. I'll stop.
Keep on.
But those are the things that I'm seeing, and I don't have daughters, but I know I put my daughters in spaces and environments to make sure they got it, because I know that was important. I didn't know everything, so who can? Lamar Guillory over there, he was one of my main persons who was an advocate for my kids and making sure my kids got where they need to be. And so he passed the torch. I see what that needs, how that needs to happen. So come on, let's do this together. We have a panel of people here who we know we all are out there doing it, but it gets tiresome sometimes when you feel like you're by yourself, but we collectively can make an impact. But at the same time, we gotta make the choices as parents and as grandparents or caregivers, I'll say that, to make sure that we are exposing our students to the things that are necessary for their futures. And we haven't gotten that part yet. We haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten there yet. And it's like, okay, it's going to take the act of God, but you got a computer in your hand all day, every day, and you can't communicate. You can't do those essential things.
Wow.
You can do things you want to do on that computer in your hand, but the necessary things that need to move you forward. If you're learning, all day free learning. I wish I had that. I still have stuff, but all day free learning, and we're not learning things.
The problem.
What do we hold as valuable or necessary for our kids? And we got to have those conversations. And we're not. And so when you say something that a kid looks like it's new information to them, that's because it is. And so we can only impact and influence in our circles. And when they get it, when you keep doing that, they'll get it. And then I say, well, let your parents know. Because they sometimes we have to learn from our babies sometimes. And it's okay. I don't know everything. My kids teach me stuff all the time, but we have to teach them. So sometimes they need to teach their parents and their grandparents, because some of us just check out. We think learning is over when we get to a certain age. I'll be 55 in June. And granted, I don't look like it. But
What?
But I mean, I'm still learning. You have to have, and this is my personal development, self-mastery hat. You have to be willing to be a lifelong learner and continue to grow and learn, because you have to constantly become a better version of yourself. Each birthday is about becoming that next level. And if you're celebrating, what are you celebrating? What did you become? What did you do that was necessary to become this next version of yourself? And so that's what I do more self-development coaching than teaching STEM stuff. But it starts there, because if they don't think they can or believe that they're different, they can be different, then they're never going to move in that direction. And so it starts there. And so I'm where I'm supposed to be, and I'm doing what's necessary, and I'm happy about it. We've made plenty of strides, though. I'll be teaching Python for the second time next year. How many Black girls have showed up in my classroom and said, guess what, I'm in your Python class next year? And I'm like, cool. They haven't even been my students. They're in my room, but they're not my students, but they are coming to the Python class. And so amazing. That's like way huge. So I really got to learn this stuff to some.
That's good. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Jones, what advice do you have for educators who want to improve STEM advocacy but may not have formal STEM backgrounds? Again, what advice do you have for educators who want to improve STEM advocacy but they might not have a formal STEM background?
Yeah, you don't need a STEM background to be an advocate for STEM. One thing that you can do is just engage in conversations with students. Find out what their interests are. And this is for teachers, educators, and school counselors, community members. Find out what their interests are, and begin to foster them. From a culturally competent counseling perspective, it's good to engage in conversations about positionality in the world. And so you might be talking to a student about their station in life and how societal forces and powers impact where they are in life, what they can do and what they can do. And sometimes just having those conversations with students about how the world impacts them and what the world says that they can be and cannot be can actually transcend their mindsets and give them the tools that they need to accomplish great things. So engaging in culturally competent counseling techniques. Also, research shows that Black girls learn better with design-based teaching instructions and hands-on teaching instructions. So we can advocate for them by providing professional development for teachers about culturally responsive teaching, and for insisting that we include inclusive teaching practices for all students. So advocacy does not stop in your office or in your classroom. You have to go across to other departments and figure out how you guys can work together to engage students in the work.
Interdisciplinary units. That's what I hear.
Interdisciplinary units, correct? Yes,
Okay.
it's a collaborative, it's a team type thing situation. So
Oh, that's great. Okay, this question, I'm going to ask the series of 3 questions. If we have time. And I want everyone to answer, give your answer. First question, from your vantage point, what do you think is the most important action that needs to happen right now to increase the representation of Black women in STEM?
What needs to happen right now, in my opinion, is parents have to be involved, and we have to start researching. Who's in our neighborhoods, who's in our community as a STEM professional, and get our Black girls to meet those Black women in those STEM professionals, just to actually see who they can be and who they can become, or have potentially who they can be and who they become, or something on that same level. For example, I like doing examples. So for
Good.
examples, if have a little girl and be like, you know what, let's go find somebody. I'm in a fraternity, right? So I can communicate to any other sororities around town that's a doctor, and we could say, hey, you want to go see the psychiatrist, Dr. Nicole? Let's go see the psychiatrist, Dr. Nicole, Dr. Nicole Washington. And she's a psychiatrist who travels around the world for her practice, and she can meet Dr. Nicole. She's based out of Broken Arrow, Dr. Nicole Washington, who's again a psychiatrist. You'd be like, hey, you can ask questions on how she became a psychiatrist. I don't really know, I don't really know how this all can play out. But as long as your daughter can get a chance to meet that professional and ask questions and see how they became who they became, and what do they have to do in order to become that STEM professional, then it just opens up the mind, just like y'all just said earlier. It's just open up that intrigue, and just open up that curiosity of like, I can do this too. What do I have to do this? Where do I have to do? What do I have to do in the summertime to increase my math scores? What do I have to do in literacy? What do I have to, it just more and more curiosity, and they can just see something outside of what they probably see in their norms in order to be successful. Hopefully I was clear, and I tried not to ramble. So that's what I think that can happen. Meet that professional in your community, so it opens your daughter's eyes.
That's great. So again, mentorship. That's what I hear you saying, mentorship. And then actually going, field trips. That's what I'm hearing, field trips.
Yes, ma'am.
Taking the kids out of their quote unquote environment and having them go out.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and see what they need to do in order to become a STEM professional. Very nice. Thank you.
Being their experiences is what I call them. They have to be there in order to feel, see, and you can never unfeel, unsee, you can never undo that. So them being in those places, and we're on social media all the time. You can find people even to follow to see what they're doing that looks like you. My kids got me doing this TikTok thing, and that's not my thing. But I'm even willing to look on that, and that is just not my thing. However, I'm willing to look to see how I can be better. But in order for our students or our parents got to kind of guide that. Because if we let our kids, do everything, they're going to kind of go down these roads that might not be necessarily meant for them, or they don't get the exposure that they need in order to go into that STEM world. But even parents, if they're going into a hospital, they can look around and start understanding what STEM is too. There's so much architecture in every building you walk in. Do we have those conversations? We're not having those conversations for our students to understand what some of these STEM things are either. You know, the traffic light is Black History Month.
Yeah.
Who did that?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
stuff like that, that's everyday stuff, environmental knowledge that is in front of our faces that we're not having conversations about, would be beneficial for, you know, parents just to take some initiative to say, hey, this world is STEM, is tech. Let me get a few things under my belt, and don't be afraid to ask somebody. If you don't know, ask a question. We're not asking questions. They say there's never a dumb question, but just ask a question. You know that there's somebody, the school counselor, a teacher. You got a teacher. That's mandated by the state of Oklahoma that everybody has to have a STEM teacher in their school. You have to be that gung-ho about your kid's future, that know that STEM is like it is the thing to do in order for your child to be exposed, in order for you to move on your child's behalf. And partner with people. There are so many organizations out here that are STEM related, and they have things. They have a phone, they have a contact, they have a website. Send them an email. We have to be proactive in how we expose our children to the STEM world.
Wow, that's great. Dr. Jones?
Yeah, those really great responses, you guys.
Yeah.
I think that maybe two things. One thing, we have to start doing some self-reflection and do some internalized work and realize how our own implicit biases might be impacting how we communicate STEM messages to students. And that is both in the counseling, in the educator, teacher, community roles, parents, families. We have to start changing our messaging about STEM. If your child is coming home and they're saying, I need help with my math, and you say, I ain't a math person, go ask your father. Go get tutoring or something. Then those societal gender stereotypes are being reinforced, and you're doing it in the home, right? You don't know it, it's unconscious, but you're doing it. And so we have to start being intentional about how we message what kids can and can't do, and how our response to them is impacting their confidence and their self-efficacy to go into these. So I think a lot of the work, that's the first work, is internalized. And I think that I had another thought and I just lost it. So maybe that's the most important thing.
It's okay. Go ahead, Dr. Hant.
Can I add
Dr. Hawkins.
one more? So recently I went to a math conference. Well, last year I went to a math conference, and in Chicago, the math department chair of Chicago, his whole thing was, how do we get our students prepared for if they're interested in STEM? How do we get them prepared? And he was he was thinking about more on the middle school level. So he was thinking like, hey, how do we get them prepared for algebra in 7th grade? How do we get them prepared in 7th and 8th grade? And so what I'm another thing that came across was, as a parent or just as a teacher all around community, how can we prepare our students? What curriculum do you have at your school that will help my student be prepared for STEM in college? And so I think if we can find out, not in high school to try to figure out like, hey, how can we get to STEM, or how do we get to STEM, but find out in the middle school, like, as early as possible, maybe in pre-K, how can I best prepare my student or prepare my scholar so then they have the opportunity and the skill set to take on college level math and sciences at an early age. Does that make sense, everybody? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and encouraging rigorous math and science enrollment. We have to encourage students to take rigorous math and science courses, and then provide them with the tools and the supports to be successful in these classes. Don't just throw them in there, but make sure that they are equipped with what they need to be successful in the class, whether that's tutoring, whether it's forming small groups of like-minded individuals, maybe Black females groups, Black females in STEM groups, so that they can have those dynamic conversations that lead to support for one another and encouragement and confidence to be successful in those fields. And then again, the messaging. Yes, that's what it is. It's the messaging. So many times people pick a career because it makes a lot of money or it's prestigious, right? But some students don't pick a career because they want to make the most money, right? Think of educators. We're not in it to make a lot of money, right? Right? We're in it because we love students. We care about our students. We care about education. And so you can present STEM careers as helping careers because many of them are. So changing the messaging about what STEM is and showing them that a STEM career can align in a social or an intrinsic work value, which is where a lot of students pick their career fields, is because they want to help people or they want to do something social. And there are many STEM careers that can fall in those work values.
So, to our next question, and you'll start, Dr. Jones. What STEM fields or industries currently have the most opportunities for Black women, and how can we prepare for them?
All of them. Black women are the most underrepresented group of people in STEM careers. And I think my research maybe a few years back, like the number was something like 3% of Black females represent career fields, women that go into the career field, 3%. So every single aspect we're underrepresented.
So what STEM fields or industries that you know of?
Engineering, laboratory work, research, even college professors that teach STEM courses. It's even at the collegiate level. And we have a lot that go into, there is one school of thought that medical professions is included in STEM, and there's another school of thought that medical professionals are not included in STEM. And it kind of just depends on where you align with those thoughts. But we do have a lot that go into nursing because they want to help people, and nursing has been identified as a traditionally accepted role for women to go into nursing. And so you see a lot going into nurses, but not a lot going into medicine. Not a lot going into research in medical fields. And they can be just as successful in those fields as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great job. Dr. Rod. Huh? Doctor.
It's
Ms.
going to be Doc one of these days.
Yes, come.
Right now, a lot of people may not know, but Tulsa was deemed a tech hub a few years ago. A lot of backstory, but tech hub. Well, they're building all these things, technology. They don't have the workforce, the trained workforce. And so a part of that Google certification thing was cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is huge. Again, low point of entry, data analytics, those things of that nature, program management. Some people do events all day long. That's program management. So there's a certification for that. So those areas in program management can go in any industry, but that is available to help go into this tech world that's wide open. So I had a conversation with I call him my Google guy the other day, and he's like, we're getting ready to go to the next level, and cool, let's roll. However, how we need to see how we're doing it, because he's on the inside of understanding and knowing what the infrastructure is with this tech hub. And so I'm staying connected to him so we can make sure we get the information rolled down, because they don't come to the schools and have those discussions. They do all this stuff and the information doesn't get to the people who need to actually implement the information or kind of pull people in. It doesn't come to us. You just so happen to have to know somebody that knows the information. And so positioning our students, our Black students, especially our females, for that, like here's what this is, come on, you can be a part of this. It's inclusive, not exclusive. And so those are some low point of entry, but you can do those things when you learn it, and you can do it remotely. That's the part that I'm like, remote work. You talk about you want to be on the beach. Guess what? Dangling those ideas in their head, like this is something that you can do. So I try to grab them with that.
That's it. Give them that flexibility. Amen. All right.
You repeat your question.
The question is, what STEM fields or industries currently have the most opportunities for Black women, and how can we prepare for them?
Okay. So from my research, the good doctor here, she pretty much said the answer, and that's what I came with. I only got a straightforward answer, but from what I've seen, it is true. With the health fields, that's for Black women, that's the most represented at this moment. In order to get to be represented in other aspects, it's going to be the same answer. I think we still need a better representation of, hey, who can we bring in our community that's doing something else other than health sciences. For example, one of my good friends, she's a architect, and she right now she don't even work as an architect field, but she's a designer of health appliances. So she designs like health plans on how it's supposed to look, and that goes into the art aspect of like designing how a machine's supposed to look or how's it put together. A lot of us don't know that's a STEM requirement, and that's like a job that me personally, I didn't know nothing about it. I mean, I've probably seen it, but I didn't know that was like a STEM thing. So I think even me talking about that is like, that's a STEM field especially for people who knows how to draw. So I think, again, go into who in our community, which Black woman professional in STEM that's already in tech, that's already in engineering, architect, within the health fields, the not medicine, but the actual scientists that actually help develop the drug to make sure that we can get healed. Let's bring them into our community so we know that we are there.
Bring them in. That's
and increase
it.
increase the numbers.
Increase the numbers. Wow, that's good. Okay, here's our final question. What advice would you give to a young Black girl who is interested in STEM but feels discouraged by a lack of representation or support? We'll start with you.
What advice I would give? Repeat that question one more time.
What advice would you give to a young Black girl who is interested in STEM but feels discouraged by a lack of representation or support?
The advice I would give, first I would ask a question of, numbers question, like how many braids can you do in your hair? Like how many braids can you do? Or how much can I get a gallon of gas with $20? So I'll take it back culturally just to challenge them on saying, like, you heard these things before. Your number, you know how to count. Your arithmetic is strong. It just hasn't been it's just not in the classroom. It's presented differently. But if I told you this and with the things that you know, it's there. You know who else can understand numbers and this surgeon. How? When you know how to braid hair or know how to knit, with surgeons, they need to know how to knit and be very precise on different muscles that they're trying to fix. And so don't think that you don't know these foundations. You truly do. And they're doing these foundational skills up in these higher levels. Again, knowing how to knit, but doctors need to be very precise. Surgeons need to be very precise with
Precise.
I'm sorry. I
No,
said
you're
precise.
fine. Precise.
Precise.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're fine.
Very precise on which muscle and what muscle this is, and they have to very intelligently know how to fix the muscle without damaging another muscle, another tendon, another just any organ. So you have the skill set. We just need to know how to present it to you. And the advice is don't believe what other people tell you. Just don't be scared. And if you mess up, it's okay to mess up. just keep going.
Okay.
We all fail, but what you do after you fail. That's what I.
That's good.
Was
So-
I clear, everybody? I
So
know
what
I went all over the place.
I hear
Okay,
you
thank
saying-
you.
What I hear you saying is that we need to make it more relevant to them, to their
Yes.
life, to their daily lives.
Yes.
You mentioned the
And-
strands with the
Right,
hair.
in order to
and
build
how
the
can they use
confidence, the critical thinking, and
Uh-huh.
independence. So then they'll be able to have a strong mindset
beautiful.
and not let the negative influence what they do afterwards.
That's
So
good.
that's what I would
Great.
that's what I would say.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Miss Rogers.
You just gonna come to me. You almost have to really, and this is not a one-time conversation.
No, it's not.
This is taking on a student that shows interest, that you want to guide. You give them resources, you give them information, you get next to them so you can guide them because they don't hear you otherwise. You can tell them all day long certain things, but if they don't feel you, so to speak, because you don't have that connection, you just, there's just words to them. But you really got to get next to them so they can hear you, so you can guide them. Still have those resources, but sometimes that takes a little bit longer so they can hear you, and then they can move in that direction. They can start seeing themselves differently, and they have to live that authentic life as opposed to going with everybody else, because most of the time they're going along with the crowd. They're not even knowing, and we've all been there. We don't really know who we are until later or have a glimpse of it, and then we get to know ourselves when we get to 30s. I mean, they think they're supposed to have it all figured out because that's what people are telling them. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? They don't know. They don't even know themselves. And so having a different conversation of the message different. What are your interests? What do you might want to go? How about let's go try this over here? At least you will know if you've touched it and that ain't what you want to do. And I can take that for my daughter. Figured out she loved anatomy. So she was a sports person, an athlete, did physical therapy, and she said, this is not it. Did an intern during high school. This is not it. Even though she was an athlete, it's not moving around enough for me. But she went and did another intern at St. John in Mercy. She said, oh yeah, this is it. So guess what she is now? A nurse.
Oh, wow.
So she knew that's not what she wanted. And we let our kids go to college not knowing anything, and we spend 4 years and all this money, and they still don't know. So we got to start exposing them or getting them involved so they can at least have some type of idea of this ain't it and this ain't what I want. Maybe let's go this down this avenue. And so we are sometimes this rainbow personality, meaning we do more than one thing good or one thing well. But we got to figure out how we can fit that in. And so be all right with trying.
That's good. Very good. Dr. Jones.
Yes, because representation is such a critical component in this conversation, it's important to get students connected with Black females or people that look like them in the STEM industry. And that could involve bringing in Black STEM professionals into the school for career day, to have conversations in classrooms, maybe biology or chemistry classrooms, or even English. Bringing those actual representations so that they can visualize and see themselves doing it because they see someone that looks like them that is doing it. So representation is a key component in this, and then making sure that they are connected with organizations that promote STEM excellence in girls, females, Black females. There are lots of summer organizations that promote coding for girls, engineering for girls, making sure that they're involved in a lot of the community partnerships that aim to increase the numbers, increase the STEM pipeline with Black females. They need to be involved with these organizations and see others looking like them doing the work. Because as I said before, you cannot be what you cannot see. And representation is key.
You cannot be what you cannot see. Everybody turn to your neighbor and say, you cannot be what you cannot see. That's good. Very nice. All right. Do we have any any last words? Okay. Oh, any questions from our audience? Oh, one question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, research shows that girls learn better with design-based learning and hands-on learning. Black girls and females.
One more time. Hold on.
I asked her to repeat how girls learn better, or black girls learn better, and she was describing.
Yeah, so research shows that black girls do learn, and girls in general just learn better with design-based learning, hands-on experiences. Better, more so than a lecture or a sit and get type situation. So that's why it's important for teachers to be aware of this and be culturally responsive to various types of learning. And certain cultures learn things in certain ways, and that's why it's not a one size fits all when we're educating students. We have to use some scaffolding. We have to understand that there are some DEI things that we need to include.
All right. Thank you so much. If you all have any other if you have any other questions, please do not hesitate to write those down. Bring it to us. Oh, you have a question?
There's been several studies and research, a lot of research done on on how to include women in high school and school to perform better on tests. And something as simple as saying, like the teacher saying, this test has been designed so that it takes gender out of it. This is not true. The test is just a test. But by putting that in women's or students' heads, it gets rid of the fear of taking the test, and they feel access to taking the test, and scores improve greatly. Black women, women of all sorts, students improve, their test results improve greatly just by telling them this test has been designed so it's gender neutral. So I'd be curious to see like how that works specifically for black students, black women students especially. And G over here and I have worked in a lot of ways together, and we found that sort of like inviting women to STEM through creative means it's fun. If you find something that engages them creatively, it's not hard to connect STEM to it. So if someone is an artist, teaching them how to like, you know, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, this is how you run a business. This is how you take care of numbers. G is in sexual health and education. So if you're teaching statistics, you know, likelihoods, outcomes, those numbers are involved in a lot of pursuits that women and men are interested in. So by sneaking in the STEM to a creative field, I feel it involves a lot of, it's an easy shortcut to involving students into STEM, like through the back door or whatever.
Oh, that's amazing. You have a question? Good to know, Mike.
I don't. Oh, thank you. I guess doctor. Getting used to using certain terminology and titles for myself. I'm a scientist and a filmmaker, and so I just wanted to ask a question because it's something that I think it's important to touch on. This current political climate makes this question probably a little tricky to answer, but I'll just pose it out there for you all. The role that policy plays in this. And that's really important to address because STEM, especially in America, is deeply rooted in policy. So the question I would pose is, you know, what role here in Oklahoma can educators play in influencing policy, whether it's local policy or national policy, to address the gaps in practices when it comes to addressing STEM for Black women students or young Black women students? And then the other two questions I wanted to touch on really quickly was self-advocating and disabilities. Myself, in the sciences, I had to do a lot of self-advocating. Are there instances that y'all could touch on where you were encouraging a student to self-advocate for themselves to be in more places where they're exposed to STEM. And then in that same context, how has the schools or the programs you work with addressed working with students that have disabilities?
Could you reiterate more on specific policy that you're referring to, state policy, district policy, in terms of?
Thank you. I'm originally from Philadelphia, and in our school district at the time, there were certain policies around, just for example, after-school programs and having access to tutoring, getting extra help from your teacher directly and so forth. And for that school, even though it is present here in Oklahoma, they intertwine some policies into promoting better after school programs and allowing for nonprofits to have a space at public schools, and then also allowing for teachers to have access to more resources. And so the policies that they had to pass and enact were more at the state level. So petitioning the superintendents for the schools and saying, hey, this is what our students need. Let's readdress the budget. This is what our students need. How can we give them access to these resources? And the thing about policy is complicated because it's not just, hey, let me go talk to a politician. There's also a grassroots aspect of it where community members, teachers, parents as well have to advocate for themselves and present to them a plan or something that they want to see happen in their community. So that's kind of what I mean by like policy, not so much just like the paper aspect of it.
Yeah, I would say that the political tenor in this region is pretty high in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would say that there is a lot of reservation when it comes to not wanting to do things that are going to implicate us as educators. And so we are feeling like we do have to sort of walk on eggshells and be careful about what we do, what we say. Despite all that, it is still important, critically important, to be social justice advocates. And when we see injustices or inequities or achievement gaps taking place, we have to do something about it. We have to say something. We have to speak up. We have to bring it to the attention of our departments. We have to bring it to the attention of our leadership. And we have to show that this is something that has to be addressed because all students are not being equally served. So yes, policy is a really tricky one, and we do have to be very careful as we approach that, but yet we still have to find the courage, the self-confidence in ourselves to speak up and do what's right because it's the right thing to do.
Good. Very nice. I know. And Dr. Angela Jones for president.
We have a question from our online audience from Caitlin Court. She says, there are a lot of changes in tech hiring with a real challenge for junior engineers to get hired. Some boot camps have even been accused of being predatory in pay later programs targeted at women of color. How do we address the issue of the hiring pipeline for junior developers who are women of color during these changing times in the tech industry?
Repeat the question again.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I have to think
How
about
do we address the issue of the hiring pipeline for junior developers who are women of color during these changing times in our tech industry?
I would say reaching out to other people that they may not. We need to find some resources. Like I said, my person that I speak to all the time is always talking about the gap that they're trying to fill the gap, but they just don't have the people to help them fill the gap. So not sure if they're in Tulsa or wherever, but there's people everywhere, especially all over, that it's a big gap just in all these areas. I mean, they just can't, they don't have the people. So I'm not sure who she's associated with or talking to, but we need to find some new resources.
And I'll piggyback on that, I guess. So there's several areas where we sort of lose underrepresentation in STEM or representation in STEM, and that's at the elementary level, again at the high school level, and then for those that actually do end up going into STEM careers that are Black females or any sort of underrepresented group, Hispanic females, females in general, then there's also the problem that we lose them. They get into STEM careers and then they leave because they don't see other people that look like them. They feel alienated in their career, and they don't get support in their careers. So filling the pipeline of STEM careers has to be done at the educational level in elementary school first. So we have to train them up to have even just enough people number wise going into the field. And that involves making sure that they have the right support that they need in elementary school to be successful on those was OSTP scores in elementary, the third grade reading math score, and those math scores that are so critically important that determine if you're even going to go on to the next grade level. Though we've got to do more work there and making sure that our students are successful there, that they pick elective interest in STEM in middle school, that they take advanced math and science courses in high school, and then you have enough people going into the pipeline to fill these positions. More people are leaving the STEM field than are entering, and the white population is declining. I have to tell you, in the next 10 years, the minority, or the next 20 years, I think, the minority population group is going to be Hispanic, right? So these are the kinds of people that are going to have to go into STEM. So we have to seek out these specific groups in high school, in middle school. We have to recruit them into STEM so that we can fill the STEM pipeline, so we won't have enough people to fill the positions in STEM that we need in the next 20 or 30 years.
And I like to piggyback off of the pipeline with it's an anecdotal experience, but from what I seen at North Texas, I was in North Texas not too long ago at my wife's best friend's graduation. And so when I went there and seen all who was graduating with STEM careers, it was all, now I don't know if they're like American or not, I don't know, but I'm gonna just say an Indian American, but like Indian American, like from Indonesia, like I seen a lot of those cultures getting those degrees. I seen a lot of Asian cultures getting those degrees. I seen a lot of African and Caribbean cultures getting those STEM degrees. And so in order to build the pipeline also, I think we have to develop, we have to improve in our culture to represent STEM. We have to improve in our culture to, or how can I say, kind of like, and I'm coming from the sports background, so I'm gonna try to use the sports background as an example. Coming from Texas, hey, you can run, you can jump, you can catch a ball. Hey, we gonna be the best high school in Texas. We gonna there's feedback somewhere. Okay, I'm sorry. We're gonna be football, and I played football. My best friends played football. Even guys who wasn't the best, they played football. So it was like we were adapt to football. Well, if we had that same energy in STEM, then we can improve our culture. We can improve our culture and give us and be like, okay, if we want to be in the STEM, what do we need to do to get into STEM? Oh, we need to go to those programs. We need to get into this program. Oh, we need to get better in math. We got to go ahead and get better in math. Oh, this is what they do at University of Tulsa in their applied maths and STEM code. They got to. Oh, we need to get them to TU or somewhere adjacent to that. In my opinion, and to sum it all up, we have to improve our culture when it comes into STEM, just like we do in sports and anything adjacent to that. So I think that would help with the pipeline, to increase the pipeline and to increase representation in STEM, especially for our Black girls.
Thank you. Caitlin does have a follow-up statement. She said, there has recently been some Black females in tech who have graduated programs but have been unable to get jobs due to the slowdown of hiring for junior developers in general. But she said, thank you very much. She appreciates the response. And Carlos Moreno, one of our Tri-City people, he chimed in with, it would be great to connect Techlahoma with schools so that the students who are interested in these fields can be connected with professionals who are working in these fields, as well as companies hiring. Do y'all have any recommendations, or are there any type of after-school programs you would like to see, or specific nonprofits get involved with TPS?
So I'm a for-profit, but I partner with another nonprofit, Uplifting Bridge Builder, where that's who we're partnering together to, and it could grow into an after school. Right now we're predominantly summer, which focus on math standards, Oklahoma math standards, and I also throw in other standards from other states that are excellent in math, to improve math skills with the that is bridged with STEM fields. It's math times professionals. So we're learning all these different math standards. We're learning geometry, probability, algebra, but we're learning that with pharmacists. We're learning that with finance professionals. We're learning that with scientists. We're learning all these different skills that are used in STEM professional fields. So to answer your question, I myself with Donnie P Math Tutoring, Math Times Professionals, we are a summer program that runs in the summertime that can also grow to an after school program. Did that answer your question? Did that answer that question, what they were asking for?
It answered, yes, it
Okay,
did.
thank you.
Do you have any information that that people can go and read about for your summer program?
Yes, for the people that's in the room, I will stay after if you have any questions. I don't have flyers right now. I kind of failed at that, so please, I'm sorry for that. But I am here to ask questions about if you want more information. Mr. Robertson helped with the program as well as Math Time Professionals. He was one of the teachers and used his own mathematical genius experience to help kids understand different math skill sets. So I will be in the back, and we can converse on some of the things that I can help with. And I'm doing a fundraising too, with calendar donations and popcorn. So we can talk about that as well. Also, for the people that's online, please follow me on Facebook, Donnie P Math Tutoring, on Instagram, and all social platforms where you will see all my information, especially all the things that I'm promoting for this upcoming summer as well, to participate in the donation. So thank you.
Real quick, spell your handle for everybody.
Yes, DONNIP Math Tutoring at DONNI Math Tutoring, and Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and if you want my emails, DONNI math tutoring at gmail.com if you want to email me questions. DONNI math tutoring at gmail.com.
And for those of you watching at home, we will put that information here in our chat, and please keep the conversation going.
Okay, did you all enjoy this session today? Ooh, yeah. This was so powerful, so necessary, so relevant. I want to thank our panelists, Dr. Angela Jones, Ms. Ramona Rogers, and Mr. Donnell Hawkins for joining us today in this important conversation about Black women in STEM, and also our appreciation to the folks that make Real Talk possible: Tri-City Collective, Pursuit Films, and the Oklahoma Humanities. Okay, Humanities. Thank you To all of you all who joined us today, we appreciate you, and those that joined us online. Join us again next month. Real Talk is live every third Saturday. We'll see you next month. Thank you.